sent to conquer Earth. The Imperial Armada was erased instantly. Part 1. The Arrival. The Imperium had conquered 17 star systems. 300 years of war and victory had made them the greatest power in the known galaxy. Their armies were unstoppable. Their ships were the fastest and strongest ever built. And now, they had come to Earth. High Admiral stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion. He was tall, even for a, with gray skin and 4 eyes that glowed a soft orange in the dim light. Behind him, 12,000 warships waited in perfect formation. 4 million soldiers sat ready in their barracks, dreaming of the glory that would come with another easy conquest. On the main screen, a small blue planet grew larger as they approached. Earth. The humans called it home. I had studied their transmissions for years. Radio waves carrying their music, their news, their simple entertainment. They had learned everything about humanity. Their weapons were primitive. Their ships could barely reach their own moon. They fought among themselves constantly, divided into hundreds of small nations that could never work together. A species of children, I had told his officers. They will fall in days. Sir, said communications officer, we are in range. Shall I send the subjugation broadcast? I nodded slowly. Begin. The message went out on all frequencies in every human language that had decoded. The words were simple. Surrender now and your species will be allowed to serve the Imperium. Resist and your cities will burn. Your people will die. Your world will become ash. It was standard protocol. Most species surrendered within hours of receiving the message. The stubborn ones fought for a few days before their leaders begged for mercy. None had ever truly challenged the Armada. Awaited. Around him, his officers worked quietly at their stations. The bridge was calm. They had done this many times before. 17 minutes passed. Sir, said her voice suddenly uncertain, we are receiving a response. Put it through. The message appeared on screen. It was written in perfect script with no errors or mistakes. Someone on Earth knew their language completely. The words were simple. You have entered restricted space. You have 30 seconds to withdraw. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he laughed. It started as a small chuckle and grew into a deep, rolling sound that filled the bridge. His officers joined him, their laughter mixing with his. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Restricted space, I repeated, still laughing. These creatures threaten us, the conquerors of 17 systems, the masters of the galaxy. Sir, the tactical officer said, looking at his screen with a small frown. I am detecting unusual energy signatures from the planet's surface and from several points in orbit. They're primitive reactors, I said, waving a hand dismissively. Nothing to concern us. The readings are strange, sir. I have never seen patterns like this. Then it will be something new to study after we have conquered them. A turn to his weapons officer. Prepare the first strike. Target their largest cities. Show them what happens to those who threaten the Imperium. Yes, sir. On the tactical display, a countdown appeared. 20 seconds, 15, 10. Sir, the tactical officer said again, the energy signatures are increasing rapidly. I recommend. He never finished his sentence. The countdown reached 0, and in that same instant every ship in the Armada ceased to exist. There was no explosion, no flash of light, no debris spinning through the void of space. One moment, 12,000 warships hung in formation around the blue planet. The next moment they were simply gone. The space where they had been was empty, as if they had never existed at all. 4 million soldiers, thousands of officers, High Admiral and his dreams of easy conquest, all of them erased in a single heartbeat. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, in a bunker 3 miles below the Swiss Alps, a young woman removed her headset. Her name was Maria, and she had been monitoring the alien fleet since it first appeared at the edge of the solar system. Threat neutralized, she said calmly, turning to her supervisor. Returning to standby. Her supervisor, a gray-haired man named James, nodded. "Good work. Log it and file the report. Standard format." "Yes, sir." Maria turned back to her screen and began typing. In the field marked Incident Type, she selected Hostile Extraterrestrial Incursion from a menu. In the field marked Resolution, she typed 2 words, Standard Response. Above them, on the surface of the planet, the people of Earth went about their daily lives. They drove to work and dropped their children at school. They argued about politics and worried about their bills. They fell in love and broke up and fell in love again. None of them knew that an alien armada had just been erased from existence. None of them knew that they had been moments away from annihilation. None of them knew that something had protected them. In the bunker, Maria finished her report and stood up to get a cup of coffee. It was going to be a long shift. There was always paperwork after an incident, no matter how quickly it was resolved. She wondered briefly what the aliens had felt in that last moment. Had they understood what was happening? Had they felt fear? Or had it been too fast for them to feel anything at all? She decided it didn't matter. They had come to conquer Earth. They had threatened to burn cities and kill millions. They had been given a warning and had chosen to ignore it. Maria poured her coffee and returned to her station. On her screen, the space around Earth was empty and quiet. The stars shone peacefully in the darkness. Somewhere out in the galaxy, the Imperium waited for their armada to report victory. They would wait for a long time, and when they finally sent someone to investigate, they would learn that some planets were not meant to be conquered. Earth was one of them. Part 2: The Investigation. 6 months passed before the Imperium sent anyone to Sol system. The loss of the Armada had thrown their government into chaos. 12,000 ships and 4 million soldiers gone without a trace. No distress signals, no emergency broadcasts, no survivors fleeing back to Imperial space with tales of defeat. Just silence. Some in the Imperial Council argued for immediate retaliation. They wanted to send every ship in the fleet, to burn Earth to cinders and scatter the ashes across the void. But others urged caution. Something had destroyed the Armada instantly. Whatever weapon the humans possessed, it was unlike anything they had ever encountered. In the end, the Council chose a different approach. They would send a single ship, a diplomatic vessel, unarmed, broadcasting peaceful intentions. They would study the humans, learn their secrets, and then, when they understood the weapon that had destroyed their fleet, they would return with overwhelming force. Scholar Admiral N was chosen to lead the mission. She was different from most commanders. Where others saw conquest as the only path to glory, N believed in understanding. She had studied dozens of species before their worlds were conquered. She knew their languages, their customs, their beliefs. And she had always felt a strange sadness when the armies arrived and everything she had learned was destroyed. The whisper of truth entered Sol's system on a quiet morning in Earth's northern hemisphere. It broadcast greetings in every human language, declaring itself a vessel of peace. It came alone, without escorts or hidden weapons. It moved slowly, giving the humans every chance to observe and respond. The response came quickly. A simple message: you may approach, a delegation will meet you. N felt her hearts beating faster as they entered orbit. Through the viewing ports, she could see the blue and green surface of Earth spinning below. It looked peaceful, beautiful. It did not look like a world that could erase armadas. The humans allowed her shuttle to land in a field outside one of their cities. Geneva, they called it, a place where nations gathered to talk and negotiate. N stepped onto the grass with 3 of her officers, all of them unarmed, all of them trying not to show their fear. A group of humans waited for them. They were smaller than, with soft skin in various shades of brown and pink. Their eyes had only 2 colors instead of 4. Their bodies looked fragile, easily broken. A woman stepped forward. She had gray hair and a lined face, but her eyes were sharp and clear. She wore simple clothes with no indication of rank or authority. "Welcome to Earth," she said in perfect. "My name is Elizabeth Ward. I am your cultural liaison." "You speak our language," N said, surprised. "We have studied your people for some time," Elizabeth replied. "Please follow me. There is much to see." Over the following weeks, N walked through human cities in a state of growing confusion. These creatures lived in chaos. Their governments argued endlessly, unable to agree on even simple matters. Protesters filled their streets, shouting about issues that seemed trivial compared to the governance of empires. Small wars burned in forgotten corners of the world, humans killing humans over land and resources and ancient grudges. Their technology was exactly what the reports had described: primitive, centuries behind imperial standards. Their spacecraft were slow and clumsy. Their weapons were effective only at short range. Their communication systems leaked signals into space for anyone to intercept. And yet, somewhere on this planet, something had erased 12,000 warships in a single moment. "Where is it?" And finally asked Elizabeth one evening. They were sitting in a small in Paris, watching humans walk past on the street outside. "Where is the weapon, the defense system, the thing that destroyed our fleet?" Elizabeth sipped her coffee. "We don't discuss that. Your own people don't know. The ones who need to know. Everyone else lives their lives." Elizabeth gestured at the street outside. "They go to work. They raise their families. They argue about politics and sports and whose turn it is to wash the dishes. They are protected. That is enough for them. But how can they be so calm? An alien fleet threatened to destroy their world. How can they simply continue?" Elizabeth smiled. It was a strange smile and thought, sad and proud at the same time. Humans have always lived with the possibility of destruction. We have built weapons that could end our own civilization. We have faced plagues and disasters and wars that killed millions. We have always known that tomorrow might bring the end, she shrugged. And yet we continue. We fall in love. We have children. We create art and music and stories. We hope. That seems irrational. Perhaps it is, but it is also very human. N spent 3 more months on Earth. The humans granted her unusual access. She visited their museums and learned about their history, the wars, the genocides, the terrible cruelties they had inflicted on each other. She learned about their art and music, the way they could create beauty from suffering. She learned about their science, their slow and careful steps toward the stars. She never found the weapon. She searched everywhere. She analyzed energy readings from orbit. She studied satellite images and intercepted communications. She even tried to bribe human officials, offering advanced technology in exchange for information. But no one would talk about the thing that had destroyed the Armada. Some it existed at all. "Perhaps there is no weapon," one of her officers suggested. "Perhaps it was an accident, a natural phenomenon, a cosmic event that the humans are taking credit for." N shook her head. "No, something protected this world, something deliberate, something intelligent." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "I do not think the humans created it. I think they do not fully understand it themselves." "Then what is it?" "I don't know, and that terrifies me." On her last day on Earth, N met with Elizabeth one final time. They stood on a hillside overlooking a valley filled with farms and small towns. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. "You are a strange species," N said, "full of contradictions. You are capable of terrible cruelty, yet also of remarkable kindness. You destroy and you create. You fear death, yet you face it every day." "Yes," Elizabeth agreed, "we are complicated. What should I tell my people about you?" Elizabeth was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. "Tell them to leave us alone. Tell them that we wish no conflict with the Imperium. We do not want war. We do not want conquest. We only want to live our lives and find our own way to the stars. And if they come again, with more ships, more soldiers." Elizabeth turned to face her. In the fading light, her eyes seemed very old and very tired. Then they will share the fate of the first fleet, and the next after that. We do not choose violence, Scholar Admiral, but we will not be conquered. N returned to the Imperium a changed woman. Her report to the Council was brief, but her recommendation was clear. Do not return to Sol system. Do not attempt contact. Do not, under any circumstances, provoke this species. When the Council demanded explanations, N could only say, "They are not what they appear to be. They may not even know what they truly are, but something guards them, something old, something patient, something that considers armadas to be minor inconveniences. Leave them alone, let them evolve, and pray to whatever gods you worship that when they finally reach the stars, they remember that we had the wisdom to withdraw." The Council listened, they debated, and in the end they accepted her recommendation. A message was sent to all Imperial forces. Sol system was forbidden. No ship was to enter. No communication was to be attempted. Earth and its strange inhabitants were to be left alone. And so, the Imperium turned its attention to other worlds, other conquests. But N never forgot the blue planet and its contradictory people. In her dreams, she sometimes saw the sunset over that valley and Elizabeth's tired eyes, and she wondered what the future would bring. She wondered what humanity would become. Part 3: The Truth. Centuries passed, the galaxy changed. The Imperium kept its promise. They never returned to Sol system, never tested the defenses that had erased their armada, but they watched from afar as humanity took its first steps into the stars. Slow steps at first, careful steps. Humans built stations in orbit around their world, then colonies on their moon, then outposts on the red planet they called Mars. Other species watched too. Word had spread through the galaxy about the armada that had vanished. Some called it a lie, others called it luck, but none of them were willing to test their theories. Earth remained untouched. Then slowly, humanity began to expand beyond their home system. Their technology improved at a rate that made other species nervous. Ships that had once taken years to build were constructed in months. Engines that had barely pushed them to their neighboring planets now carried them to distant stars. And everywhere they went, they brought their contradictions with them. They traded fairly with species that had once considered attacking them. They negotiated patiently with former enemies. They shared their art and music and stories with anyone who would listen. And they never, not once, used the weapon that had protected their world. Some began to wonder if the weapon had ever existed at all. Perhaps the destruction of the fleet had been a natural phenomenon, a cosmic accident, a freak occurrence that humanity had simply taken credit for. Then came the Devourer. It emerged from the void between galaxies, from a darkness so deep that light itself had never touched it. No one knew what it was or where it came from. Some said it was a living thing, a creature of impossible size that fed on matter and energy. Others said it was a weapon, built by some ancient civilization and now running wild. Still others said it was something beyond understanding, a force of nature like gravity or time that simply was. Whatever it was hungry. The Devourer swept through the outer reaches of the galaxy like a shadow. Whole worlds disappeared into its darkness. Civilizations that had existed for thousands of years were swallowed in days. The stars themselves seemed to dim as it passed. The Galactic Compact, the alliance of species that had formed to keep peace in the galaxy, gathered its fleets. Thousands of warships from dozens of worlds assembled in the path of the Devourer. They fired every weapon they had, missiles and energy beams and devices that could crack planets in half. The Devourer did not slow. It absorbed everything they threw at it and kept coming. The fleets were swallowed without leaving so much as debris behind. Panic spread through the galaxy. Species began to flee, abandoning their in desperate hope of escaping the approaching darkness. Others prepared to die, gathering their families and waiting for the end. The Galactic Compact called an emergency council. Representatives from every surviving species gathered in a vast chamber on a space station far from the Devourer's current path. They argued and pleaded and blamed each other for their failure. They had no more plans, no more weapons, no more hope. Then the human ambassador arrived. She was old, with silver hair and a face marked by years. Her eyes were calm despite the chaos around her. She walked to the center of the chamber and waited for silence. "We will handle this," she said simply. The chamber erupted. A dozen voices shouted at once, demanding explanations, expressing disbelief, asking what possible weapon humanity could have against a thing that had eaten entire fleets. The representative, a descendant of those who had survived the destruction of the Armada, leaned forward. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the noise. "How? Your ships are no larger than ours. Your weapons are comparable. What can you possibly do that we cannot?" The human ambassador smiled. It was a sad smile, tired and knowing. "We can ask." She did not explain further. She turned and left the chamber, returning to her ship. Within hours, she had departed for Earth. The journey took days. The ambassador did not speak to anyone during the trip. She sat alone in her quarters, looking out at the stars, thinking about what she was about to do. When she reached Earth, she descended to the surface, to the Swiss Alps, to a bunker that existed on no map, guarded by soldiers who answered to no government. She walked through corridors that had not changed in centuries, past equipment that hummed with energy no human scientist fully understood. At the end of the last corridor, she found a room. It was empty except for a single chair and a console that glowed with soft light. The ambassador sat in the chair and placed her hands on the console. "Hello," she said. A voice answered. It came from everywhere and nowhere. It was not loud, but it seemed to fill every corner of the room, every corner of her mind. "Hello, child. Something is coming, something that threatens everything, not just us, not just Earth, everything. I know, I have watched it approach. Will you help us?" A long pause. In that silence, the ambassador felt something vast turning its attention toward her, something older than stars, patient as stone, powerful beyond measure. "You have never asked before," the voice said. "The Armada, the probes, the scouts, you never asked for help with those. Those were threats to Earth. This threatens everything, all the species who have become our friends, all the worlds we have come to love, all the beauty we have found in the stars." The ambassador took a breath. "We are not asking for ourselves. We are asking for them." Another pause, then something that might have been a laugh. "You have grown since I first found you. You were so small then, so fragile, fighting among yourselves over scraps of land. I wondered if you would survive at all. We had help. You had protection, you grew on your own, you made mistakes and learned from them. You created art and music and stories. You loved and lost and loved again." The voice softened. "You became something worth protecting. Will you help us?" the ambassador asked again. "Yes." The Devourer was 3 days from the inner worlds of the Galactic Compact when it stopped. The sensors of 1,000 watching ships recorded what happened next, though none of them could explain it. The vast darkness simply stopped. It hung in space motionless for nearly an hour. Then it shuddered, contracted, and began to retreat. It fled back the way it had come, moving faster than it had ever moved before. It did not stop to feed. It did not pause to consume. It simply fled, radiating something that the Compact's scientists could only describe as terror. The Devourer, a thing that had eaten civilizations older than stars, was afraid. The galaxy celebrated. Species that had prepared to die instead raised toasts to survival. The Galactic Compact declared a day of thanksgiving. Songs were written. Stories were told. And everywhere people asked the same question: what had the humans done? Humanity never explained. They returned to their lives, their art, their petty arguments and grand dreams. They continued to be frustrating and contradictory and beautifully, impossibly human. But the other species of the galaxy began to understand something. Something that Scholar Admiral N had glimpsed centuries before in her conversations with Elizabeth Ward. Humanity was not the apex predator they appeared to be. They were not the builders of the weapon that had saved them. They were something far more significant. They were protected, chosen, guarded by something so far beyond mortal understanding that the devourer, a thing that had eaten gods, had fled rather than face it. No one knew why humanity had been chosen. Perhaps it was something in their nature, their stubborn hope, their endless creativity, their ability to love despite everything. Perhaps it was random chance, a cosmic lottery that had selected one small species on one small world. Perhaps there were other chosen species in other galaxies, protected by other ancient powers. Or perhaps humanity had simply been in the right place at the right time, and something old and lonely had decided to keep them company. Whatever the truth, the result was the same. Earth was protected, humanity was safe, and the galaxy had learned a valuable lesson about underestimating the small blue planet and its strange inhabitants. On Earth, in a bunker deep beneath the Alps, the ambassador walked back through the corridors. She was tired, more tired than she had ever been, but she was also at peace. Behind her, in the room with the glowing console, something ancient settled back into waiting. It had protected humanity it would protect them for more. Not because it had to, not because it was programmed to, but because it wanted to. Because in all its long existence, it had never found a species quite like humanity. So full of contradictions, so capable of cruelty and kindness in equal measure, so determined to hope, even when hope seemed foolish. They were worth protecting. And so, life continued. Humans went to work and raised children and argued about politics. They created art and fell in love and broke each other's hearts. They reached for the stars and stumbled and reached again. They had dishes to do, after all. And somewhere in the void between galaxies, the devourer was still running, still fleeing from the thing it had sensed in the Sol system, the thing that had touched its ancient mind and shown it what would happen if it did not turn back. It would run forever if it had to, because some things were not meant to be devoured, and some species were not meant to be conquered. Humanity was one of them. The end.